Before I even get started with this, I have a feeling I'm going to be doing a lot of videos debunking these so-called definitions that they've given for the word woke. Not because I feel I have to, but because it's actually rather comical at this point, watching individuals trip over themselves when it comes to the definition of said word. Now, what I'm about to do is play this video for you where Jake Tapper asked Nikki Haley to define woke. And when I tell you what she says is about as bad as when Bethany Mendel back in March couldn't even define what the word woke was based on how she interpreted in her book, if she even wrote it. It's just all around bad. Like from the time she opens her mouth to the time she closes it. Like, check this out.
Define woke.
There's a lot of things. I mean, you want to start with biological boys playing in girls' sports. That's one thing. The fact that we have gender pronoun classes in the military now. I mean, all of these things that are pushing what a small minority want on the majority of Americans, it's too much. It's too much. I mean, the idea that we have biological boys playing in girls' sports, it is the women's issue of our time. My daughter ran track in high school. I don't even know how I would have that conversation with her. How are we supposed to get our girls used to the fact that biological boys are in their locker rooms? And then we wonder why a third of our teenage girls seriously contemplated suicide last year? We should be growing strong girls, confident girls. Then you go and you talk about building a strong military. How are you going to build the morale in a strong military when you're doing gender pronoun classes? Why is it that you have, kids undergoing critical race theory where if a little girl's in kindergarten, if she's white, you're telling her she's bad. If she's brown or black, you're telling her she's never going to be good enough and she's always going to be a victim. All of these things have gone to where they are pushing, and transgender, the whole issue of the transgender, it's not that people don't think in America you should live the way you want to live. I want everybody to live the way they want to live. But stop pushing your views on everybody else. That's the problem, is they're starting to push everything on the rest of us.
Okay.
She just spent the last minute and a half saying a whole bunch of nothing, while those fools in that audience clap like she actually said something. She used all the buzzwords that you could think of in this minute and a half when she was asked to define the word woke. And she didn't even finish off at the end saying, that's how I define woke. That's how they define it. Like I said, there's only one central definition for that word. Just one. Only one. But none of them, and I do mean none of them, can ever truly say what it is because it'll expose them. It's the fact that they can't use a particular word that their ancestors anyway, openly used with no consequence back in the day. Y'all know exactly what word I'm talking about. No need to try to break that all the way down. So what do? They replace it with this. And they think that we're dumb and stupid and don't understand what it is that they're talking about. We know exactly what they're talking about. But this goes beyond Nikki Haley. Let's talk about the former bosom buddies, Donald Trump and Rhonda Snowflake. If they ever were friends, maybe that was just all a front. There was a recent article that went out where Rhonda Snowflake said, you know what, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring and I'm going to tell you what the definition of the word woke is based on my interpretation. And without even reading into the whole article, he basically says that wokeism, or just woke, has something to do with cultural Marxism. He throws some other stuff in there, but he mentions something called cultural Marxism. And when I looked it up, this is what I saw. The term cultural Marxism refers to a far-right anti-Semitic conspiracy theory which misrepresents the Frankfurt School as being responsible for modern progressive movements, identity politics, and political correctness. The conspiracy theory posits posits that there is an ongoing and intentional academic and intellectual effort to subvert Western society via a planned culture war that undermines the Christian values of traditionalist conservatism and seeks to replace them with culturally liberal values. That's how the Snowflake defined it. And in case people were thinking I was making this up, this is the actual quote from him. "We know what woke is." DeSantis replied, "It's a form of cultural Marxism, like I said and gave the definition of. It's about putting merit and achievement behind identity politics, and it's basically a war on the truth. And as that has infected institutions, it has corrupted a lot of institutions, so you've got to be willing to fight the woke." Now, peep how he just phrased that, or how he framed this. They swear that it's a war on the truth, but they can't even give the truthful definition of the word woke, so they just sit up there and lie. I'm telling you, they tell on themselves all the time. Now, keep in mind, Nikki Haley and Rhonda Snowflake are both running for president. Remember what I told y'all about Rhonda Snowflake and what platform he's going on. This whole fight the woke, this anti-woke and stuff that he's on, that's his platform. He's going to get a lot of support behind that. Trust and believe me. I said, y'all better watch out for him. But that doesn't leave out or exclude Donald Trump, because he too used that word woke in a very bastardized way throughout his presidency as well. Recently, he's kind of changed his tune where he, because, him and the Snowflake, they ain't on good terms right now. They're like enemies. At least that's the front that we're seeing. I don't know how true or genuine it is, but that's what they're displaying right now. And he basically clapped back at Rhonda Snowflake, where he was saying, he was mocking him, woke this and woke that. And he says it's pretty much like no one really knows what the definition of the word woke is, or knows the actual meaning of the word. But he knows, we know what the Snowflake, Nikki Haley, and all the other ones that have bastardized this word all know exactly what the word means. But we know why they switched it. They took it and they switched it around and they bastardized it to their own meaning. Now, keep in mind, Nikki Haley gave her interpretation of it. Ron the Snowflake gave his interpretation. Donald Trump has given his. You've seen a lot of these think tanks. They said what theirs is. Bethany Mandel couldn't even define it, even though she put it in her book. And this is where we are with it. And I decided to show this headline from the same article that I showed with the quote that Ron the Snowflake put out there by this person named Philip Bump, who posted on June 5th, 2023. He said, woke, quote unquote, no longer means anything. And you want to know what's so crazy? Because they've bastardized the word so much, and it has so many meanings instead of one central meaning. It really almost has no meaning anymore. Although we know what it means, and that's to be aware, socially, politically aware of our surroundings and the world around us. Just, being aware. That's really what it is. And we can say that till we're blue in the face, but they still will change it from what they'll make of it what they want, because that's what they feel it should mean. That's what they feel it should mean, even though it doesn't. The word woke now has about as many variants as Kang the Conqueror. It's almost like the word woke that was created by us, by black people, particularly foundational black Americans, back in the 60s, died a horrible death, and then was revived and brought back from the dead, put back together Frankenstein style, and cloned several times over. There's always this thing, if you brought something back from the dead, it's not going to come back the way that it was before it died the first time. There's going to be something horribly wrong with it. It's not going to have the same aura or effect as it once did. But you know what? That's fine. As long as we know what the definition of the word is, and as long as we hone onto it, it doesn't really matter how they choose to define it. Now, I will say this. I wish I was the one that was the moderator for these debates, or maybe a person in the room that could ask a question when they do have these Republican debates next year, and I would just ask the central question: can each one of you give me your definition of the word woke? And that goes to every last person up there, because every last one of them bastardized that word. But I know they're all going to give a different definition. They would be foolish to all give the same one, because we know that they won't. And if they tried, we could just pull up the receipts of what they said, and it would just be and it's not because I know that they're going to get the definition wrong. My petty ass just wants to see them scramble and scuffle over who has the best sounding version of the definition of that word as they see fit. That shit would be absolutely hilarious. Y'all gotta admit, that would be funny to watch. Especially since it's so comical about how wrong they have the word now without the debates. It would just be amazing to see how it is. But that's where literally the word is nothing more than a buzzword. And we know what it's used for, and they know it too. Don't let them slip by and try to play dumb like they don't. They do. They know exactly what it means. And they have no shame in continuing to use it. The thing is, a word should only have one, maybe two definitions at most. This thing has done spiral. This word has done spiraled out of control, that, like the person wrote in the article, that it no longer has a meaning because it has become so tainted. You know how whenever you make a drink or something like that and is at one solid base, but then when you start adding different things to it, it changes the flavor of it because it's become tainted. It's no longer the same. It's not original anymore. It's out of the ordinary. It's otherworldly. That's what they have done to this word. That's why I said we as black people have to gatekeep. I remember hearing that word woke when I was in college, and I was in college from 2007 to 2011, and it always meant one thing, which was to be aware. But when they changed it to this, I was like, what are they talking about? That's not the word woke. And if you try to tell them that it's not, then they'll try to say that you're the one being woke, because they can't define it. So what do they hit you with? Their version of a shutdown. Oh, you're just being woke. Okay. I mean, I guess. I mean, if that's your argument, if that's the best you can throw at me, so be it. Just ask them to define it, and then they'll come back and say, oh, you're being woke again. See what happens when they get a hold of our intellectual property? This is what it turns into.